Hello and welcome back to Will It Work. As of the filming of this video, we are 1 month away from the closure of the eShop for the Wii U. I thought it would be a good opportunity to take one last look at the versatility of the Wii U and its ability to format a wide variety of USB devices in order to store eShop games. Much more versatile than the PlayStation or the Xbox. Now, a couple of years ago, I made a few videos on this topic showing how to put eShop games from the Wii U on DVD RAM, iOmega zip disk, and even a hardware RAID 5 array with full disk redundancy. For this video, we're going to take a look at attaching it to a Sony MiniDisc. Now, if you're not familiar with the Sony MiniDisc, it is a digital audio format from the early 90s. And its claim to fame was the ability to delete tracks and add new ones and edit tracks and so forth, something you couldn't do with a CDR. It was never very popular in the United States. It was popular in Japan, and it wasn't initially popular in Europe either, but in the late 90s and early 2000s, it did have a spike in popularity for a brief amount of time. Now, I had one in the mid-90s. I really loved it. I had one in my car and a recorder at home. Eventually, my car got stolen and they stole the mini disc head unit out of it. So I wound up selling my home recorder unit and just kind of forgot about it after a few years. Many years later, I found that Sony kept improving this format. In the late 90s, they had a version called NetMD that you could hook up to your computer and swap songs. And later in 2004, they came out with a final format called HiMD, which is the player I have here. Now, HiMD had a new 1 gigabyte size disc with it. The older ones were just measured in the audio running time. And you could put full PCM audio tracks on it, CD quality, had better compression if you wanted to go that route, and you could even use it as a USB mass storage device on your computer, essentially turning the mini disc into a 2.5-inch magneto-optical disc compared to the more popular 3.5-inch magneto-optical disc. And that's what we're going to be looking at today. So why mini disc? Well, two reasons. One, it's a format most people associate with audio playback, not general data storage. And two, and more importantly, it is through and through a Sony product like Betamax and Memory Stick. It is very highly associated with Sony, and we know, of course, that Nintendo and Sony are big rivals in the home video game console market. And I thought this symmetry, or maybe asymmetry, of these two things coming together would make for an interesting video. So, without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so we're going to use the original 60-minute mini disc because, as it turns out, you don't have to have the new 1 gigabyte HiMD disc to format into a data disc. You can use the old audio discs as well. And they came in 60 minutes and then 74 minutes and finally 80 minutes. I have read that the 80-minute mini disc will translate into about 305 megabytes when formatted, so we're going to get less than that with the 60-minute disc here, and then the Wii U's formatting will also take a chunk out of that. So if this works, we're just going to have to see how much space we have available to move an eShop game over to this mini disc. So I'm just going to go ahead and put it in, and let's see if we can format it. Okay, so I'm in the Wii U's data management app here. And let's go in and see if it can see this and format it. That is a good sign. Let's get started. Wow, okay. Let's take a look at what we've got. So we have 202 megabytes available. That's okay. I'm just going to move over Metroid Fusion like I did in the iOmega zip drive video I did with this. It's about 50 megabytes. Most of that is the emulator, not the actual game. Metroid Fusion was an old Game Boy Advance game, so it's not very big, but the emulator takes up probably 99% of the space on that. So let's go into the internal system memory. And we're going to say move Metroid Fusion. And it's going to ask for confirmation. We'll say yes. And here we go. MiniDisc is definitely spinning around there. I can hear it. Okay, so that took about 4 minutes, not very fast. This MiniDisc player is USB 1.1, so that's part of the problem, but the zip drive I did on this a couple years ago was also USB 1.1, and it moved Metroid Fusion over in about 1 minute, so this thing is definitely not a speed demon. Okay, let's go out to the main menu and launch the game off of the MiniDisc and see if we can get it to actually run. Okay, so that took about 4 minutes too, which kind of makes sense because I believe it's loading the entire thing into RAM. So, yeah, there it is up and running. So, in conclusion, the Wii U can absolutely attach to a Sony MiniDisc, format it, and transfer eShop games over to it and play those games from the MiniDisc. Not very quickly, not very practical, but it does in fact work. So, I hope you're enjoying these videos. If you are, please like and subscribe. I'll be back soon, but that's all for now. Take care.